Okay, 7:01 looks like getting there. Sorry, a little run a little late. This is the Zoom session for LDR 440, and it is Tuesday, the 25th of April. This is week 7. You should see my Moodle screen at this point. I'm hoping. And let's see if we can't get a video here. Okay, yeah, we sure do. All right. Sorry, I'm just wearing got a little exercise in. So I'm dressed a little casual tonight. Hope that's okay. Anyway, we're going to talk again LDR 440, leading change course. And let's see if we got anybody participating with us tonight. Looks like it's just me for right now. My name is Russ Jamison. I'm your adjunct instructor for this course. That's my information on the right of your Moodle screen. Again, 25th of April, Tuesday. This is the 7th week. So we have finished 7th week, I should say. Right? You all got your papers in. So we're in actually, this is the 8th week. This is your last week. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So tomorrow you will have discussion questions. Let's take a look at those real fast. Okay. So the first one is from chapter 11. You were given a warning, expect the unanticipated, meaning that no matter how careful your pre-planning is, change management is going to result in the unexpected, which requires a combination of resilience and improvisation. This is good stuff. So, as a leader, you must be proactive, as my question goes on to say. So, what are 3 ways you develop in your team the ability to be resilient to change, and the ability to react intelligently to change, ability to improvise a solution making do? So, how do you teach this? How do you be proactive in developing in your people ability to change? This is something we grapple with in a vocation that I retired from a few years ago. As a Marine officer, you tend to have to train your Marines to handle the chaos, the friction, we call it, the fog of war, and be resilient to it. And the more that you can do that and developing your people the ability to do that, the better we found the performance and the lesser amount of post-traumatic stress and quite frankly failure. Okay, so good question there. Then and chapter 11 gives you some of those ideas, and want you to think through those. Then chapter 12, question number 2, chapter 12. I want you to complete the exercise 12.1 on networking. How good are you? And this reinforces what you would have learned about networking, called boundary spanning in LDR 300. There's another course out there, LDR 360, that talks through it, which is conflict, ability to lead through conflict. Anyway, the idea here is to take this exercise, share with us what your score was, and then answer the questions that are listed by that score. In other words, your score will produce some questions. I want you to work through those and then share with us. Okay. And then, of course, you've got your paper due on Saturday by 23:59. This is due on 29 April. This is your organizational change paper. You just finished your personal. Note in the organizational change, I need and want you to include your change image. Okay, remember you did an exercise earlier in the course, identifying in most circumstances if you are a director, a coach, and a navigator. And then, so identify the state, I should say, the image that you're using in this change, okay? Because remember, through the text, through the course text, you were taught that there are different aspects based on the change image you've adopted, okay? And then in here, I want you to develop a strategy for accomplishing the change. But I tell you to use the Cotter's 8-step process. So that already really tells you there's at least one change image I want you to use, right? Because remember, directors use the 8-step process, okay? But I want you to use that and work through it, okay? Shouldn't be hard. I'll talk about your paper, week 7 paper here in just a minute. And then your week 8 quiz, okay? Again, it will open on Wednesday. It closes on Sunday. So no changes to the normal rhythm, okay? All right, let's take a look here at our week 7 paper. Oh, let's do this. Okay, so week 7 discussion questions. Everybody did pretty good. Did real well on the first question. You all identified what approach organizational change is based on, what approach sense-making approaches organizational change is based on. You accurately identified which approach is best used for coach and which is best used for interpreter. Then we kind of fell apart. Many of you missed the second question, and you pulled out a change failure that wasn't on the table. Okay, so I'm not sure what everybody was looking at. Most of you answered it correctly, so I know you did look at table 10.1, but there was a number of you that didn't use one of the 16, and so you didn't get as many points. Okay, so I asked you to use one of the 16, and then give 3 to 5 reasons that particular response will make change fail. Okay, so I wanted you to use the text and then answer it based on the text. Okay. Excuse me, just needed to rehydrate. So anyway, again, I'm not trying to be cruel about this, but if you don't quite answer the question by not using what I wanted you to use as the basis of the question, then you it costs you some points. Okay, and I could talk more about that one-on-one if you desire. But most of you, I provided you a response. Okay, all right. Your personal change paper, everybody did well. Again, this was a meaningful personal change that you want to make. Okay, so this was designed to talk about you as a person, meaning a change you want to make, whether it's, you want to go to bed earlier, or you want to read more books, or you want to be more attentive in class, or I mean, it could run the gamut. I didn't care what change you made, but just work through it. And then you'll note that we cover the questions cover different chapters that you've had to date in the text and in the course. In other words, you talk about your vision. Okay. You talk about forces driving that change, talk about barriers to the change, talk about your strengths and weaknesses that'll affect the change. Tell us why there was resistance to the change. Talk about strategy for accomplishing the change. Okay. And then how you'll influence others. So every one of these questions, there was a chapter in your text that alluded to it. Okay. And the I provided you a paper afterwards that I told you in part as follow-up what could have gone in your paper. Let's take a look at that right now. Okay, this is the attachment that I sent out saying that I graded your chapter 7. Okay, and again, a lot of this gets down to, when you're talking about change, it is very helpful for you to use what change image you're speaking from. Right? Because again, we noticed that depending on what your desired results are, remember your intended, your unintended, your partially intended outcomes, and what level of change you're desiring, whether that was a tier 1 or tier 2, right? Whether you were just making changes around the margins or whether you were enacting deep, meaningful change, okay? So, and all that is laid out for you in a chart, right? So as I scroll down on that paper, I give you that chart, right? In other words, here is the change management that we're after. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had it, right? And so if you have intended outcomes and you're going to cramp down on your style, then your change image is director, okay? If you figure there's going to be some partially intended outcomes and you want to go after a higher level order, then you may be an interpreter, okay? So let me know what your change image is so that I understand becomes the basis of where you're heading. Remember, in the second question on the paper, vision, there are 3 components to a vision, right? And we wanted to note that each vision has to be imaginable, desirable, feasible, focused, flexible, and communicable, okay? Remember table 6.3. So that would have answered that first question, right? Clearly articulate your vision, okay? Next is forces driving the change. And if you recall, forces of change in chapter 3 were either external or internal. Is there something making you make this change? Like, I don't know, you're under indictment? So hopefully not. Or is it internal? In other words, this is something you desire. Okay. And then there are pressures for change. There were 6 of them, right? And each is defined by the change image you picked. So if you, for example, sell yourself as a coach, the pressures for change are constant and result in a need to develop and shape your capability, your mindset, your value to better enhance the outcomes. In other words, you get after the culture in place, okay, or you change a habit, right? Okay. Then you were asked, what are some of the barriers to making that change? And coincidentally enough, on pages 253 to 260, there are 14 reasons why people are resistant. Okay. The barriers are dislike of the change, discomfort with uncertainty, lack of clarity, timing is wrong, there's been too much change, there might be a clash with my ethics. Okay. So these are all reasons that could have been used in your paper, right? All right. And then I asked in there, what are some personal strengths and weaknesses that will affect your change effort? Remember in LD 300, you all went through a lot of analysis, self-insight example or exercises, right? Know yourself type of things. And that should then continue to match in large measure your image of change. But you know yourself. I can't profess to know that. And you know your strengths and weaknesses. Okay. And so that's what I was looking for in that particular paragraph. Okay. The next paragraph is why you've resisted the change or might resist it in the future. Okay. And coincidentally, in chapter 8, you had a bunch of tables 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 that listed resistance to change. Okay. And your possible responses. Okay. None the least of which is sometimes it's just hard. Okay. Um, but anyway, finally, then, strategy of change. Remember what chapters 9 or 10 were all about. So, was there a model in the change management approach that you could have used? Right. Remember the end step models that you were given in chapters 9 and 10, right? And then strategy for accomplishing the change. Yeah, concepts for the text. And then now, how will you influence others to support your change? Okay. Well, this is very critical, right? Mostly covered in chapter 12. So I didn't take too many points if you didn't cover some of the competencies, because obviously chapter 12 was part of your week 8 reading. But if you did use it, you gained some points. And at a minimum, the issue gets down to how specifically you would influence others. Um, it's not enough to say, well, I'm going to communicate better, or I'm going to get them in a meeting and they'll all participate with me as I do it. Uh, get a little bit more in depth. I want to see some meat on those bones. How would you communicate better, or how would you get others to participate? This is where your money is made as a leader, as a change manager. Okay. And so then there were some concepts you might consider, right? Speak up, encourage others to speak up, be aware, verbalize your plans, reduce pressures, overlearn new routines. I mean, there's just any number of things that you can, come up with. But again, this is just some things to help it. Again, your papers were decent. Many of you did very well. Some of you, a couple of you, again, I don't know what you were looking at. These were the questions, these were the paragraphs. And again, I recommend you use paragraph headers and use each of these as a paragraph header. Okay, certainly you should have in your first paragraph introduction. The last paragraph should be headed conclusion. Okay, every paper needs an introduction and a conclusion. And then in between introduction and conclusion, I should see 8 paragraph headers. First, meaningful change that I want to make. Bloom. My vision. Bloom. Forces that are driving my change. Bloom. Possible barriers to making this change. Boom. Right? Boom or bloom. I don't know what I was doing there, but you see what I'm getting at. Okay. And when you do this, it does a couple things for you. First, it organizes your paper, and it makes it much easier for you to write it, because now you're developing a paragraph based on a question, and we're not just kind of meandering through this. We're giving hard responses to specific questions, which you knew were going to be graded. The other piece to it, and it makes it easier for your reader, in this instance, me, to read your paper and to grade it, quite frankly, to see if you matched your paper up to this. Now, again, as I told you, I don't grade based on word count. I gave you an 800 to 1250 word idea. Okay. If you could have done it in less than 800 words, made all your points at sufficient detail or depth, more power to you. That was great. And there's been a couple of my students that have done that. They were very good at use of brevity. Others may take more than 1,250 words. That's fine. I didn't count down on too many words unless it was nonsensical. Okay. One of you used way too much of other people's work. Your about 3/4 of your paper was uh, direct quotes from other sources. And you got to be careful making sure that you cite those works is important, but it doesn't get you off the hook. And that hook is, this is your work, not a regurgitation of what other people have said. If I wanted a compendium, I would ask you, give me a compendium of other people's work. But this was a personal change paper, and so when 3/4 of your paper was direct lifts of other people's words, it was hard for me to grade your paper based on what I've asked for. As I tell you, the only way you fail this course is by not doing the work. That remains true. I did give credit where I could find it, but it wasn't a good result. So you got to find a balance. Okay, turn it in gives you a similarity score. And that post, once you uh, uploaded your paper, okay, a 0% is not good, okay, because that means you did not bring in any other people's work into your paper that did require some research. All right. You definitely want to at least bring in a definition from your text to show that you've used the text. And when you do that, you have to properly cite, and then therefore, you will have a small similarity grade. Okay. From there, you have to get into, uh, if you get in a position where 100% of your paper, and believe me, I've almost seen that, is a quote from somebody else. That isn't good either. Okay, because obviously that is somebody else's work and not yours. So you need to find that middle ground, and it's less than 50. Okay, probably at about the 10 to 20% range is pretty decent similarity, meaning you brought in quotes of that amount. Okay, and again, remember, Turnitin looks at the database of all papers. So papers that you may have turned in will show up in this. Okay, so sometimes I'll look and see if you have um, cited your own work. Because remember, University of Mount Olive does consider it cheating to turn in your own work from another class unless you've contacted both instructors first. Okay, so just so you're aware of that. I mean, it's again your own work. You think you'd be fine, and I would agree with you. But the idea here is that you turn in original work in each class. You don't repurpose things. If you do repurpose things, you've talked to both instructors to make sure everybody's straight and understanding what's going on. Okay. And that's just integrity. Okay. All right. So that is it in a nutshell. I'm going to leave this Zoom session open for a little while longer, see if anybody does still want to join in. Again, we're down to the last week. Finished strong. Some of you owe some work, and that's not a good position to be in, but we can work through that. You just need to communicate. Okay, don't wait until the last minute, um, please. Okay, and again, my job, I'm here to get you through this. That's my job. You'll do the work, but I'll help you out. Okay. And then ultimately, for those of you that are doing well, just keep doing what you're doing. You know what you got. But take some time. Don't rush through these. Believe me, I could tell on many of you when you are rushed and haven't given it the time or attention you think you needed. And I take that in account because I know everybody's busy. You've got full-time lives, you've got families, you've got full-time work, and you're taking this course, and you got all the normal pressures of life on you. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody could do it. Okay, but remember, keep your goal in sight. You're after something here that dramatically improves your life and is a worthwhile goal. Certainly worth the effort. But take advantage of it while you're doing it. Okay, this is your time. Okay, and the reason that we ask these questions, the reason that you go through these papers is so that you get your money's worth. Okay, you're paying for an education. Okay, and hopefully at the end of this, you have learned some things, uh, and uh, and it's a very good text. I think it's phenomenal. It's definitely one that you have to study and work through. Okay, this isn't just one you pick up and slap down and go on. It takes some cognitive effort. Okay, but in the end, if you see what they're trying to get across and you understand the dynamics of change, it's so much better. I wish the Commandant of the United States Marine Corps had read this, taken this course, and gone through this textbook. because the organizational change he's enacted on the Marine Corps um, has been just an abject disaster, in my opinion. And none the least of which is he didn't follow some of the approaches within this text, and he didn't fully understand or didn't want to. I can't get in his mind. I don't know what the decision making was, but there's a there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Okay, of leading change, and part of that gets down to making sure the change that you're enacting is worthwhile, is what is needed to happen. When you enact a change that has not been well thought out and there is resistance to that change, the natural reaction is to make it personal and take offense instead of seeing what it is, and that is people trying to help you out, okay, and get you to make a course change, okay. All right. Anyway, long and short, Russ Jamison's opinion. Obviously, I never made it to that high rank, and I wasn't made colonel for a reason. It wasn't good enough. So I have my own opinions, and that's probably where it ought to stay. But in the end, I will stand on this, and that is take the time as you're going through these courses to study what is given you, not just read, but lay it out and study it. Because again, this is your time and this is your opportunity, and you got some really good information here. Okay. All right, 7:28. I'm going to let this run a couple more minutes, and then I'll sign off. Okay. Everybody, take good care of yourselves, and good luck for this week. And let's get you through it in high fashion. Okay. Bye for now.